Welcome back, guys, to the third part of the Tokaj trip. It's Christian here from Emotions in Wine. This is the way from Mad Village, where I was based, to Tokaj Village. So you see a bit of the vineyards on the way. Here on the right is the volcano with the real shape, traditional of it, a bit steeper. So that's why you see steeper vineyards here and hills compared to mud area. If you watch the previous videos, quick tour of the small town, let's say, but it's a village at the end because it's not that big, even Tokaj. And then we will head to the third visit of the trip. The most interesting for many reasons. Only handicap is that Keza Lenkey, the owner, doesn't speak English, so his partner will be translating. So I will do most of the talk to explain easier. So let's get ready for that. So leaving the Tokaj village, heading back to Mad village, where also Lenkey is based. A moment in the vineyards, you see Mad there. Here is St. Tamas side, and in front of us, the hill is Uradia, the famous crew where Lenkey winery is based. So heading there. First thing, they brought me to the vineyards north of the village, as you can see, a bit higher altitude, to see how is the status of the botrytis for the grapes that are still on the plants. They are looking, of course, for the sweet wines. Was a tough vintage so far. Today, beautiful weather, as you see. Here is a touch of botrytis. Some bunches have a bit, as you can see, but in general, the rain of the last period made a lot of trouble. So now they are hopeful that things can get better. So all our support is a long harvest period. So another one of the points making their lives very, very difficult, complicated. Winery is certified already organic few years, and you see they do not like Italians the grappa, but they use the pomaces to fertilize the soil. So everything is natural. There are many, many typical and particular characteristics that we will see along this trip with them. Here are other bunches. They are saving everything possible, hoping that the result can be good for the sweet wines. And particularly, you will see in a moment old vines. That is something I repeated several times during the trip. There is a huge heritage of old vines, and they have a lot, making a big difference in the wines. So now we are ready to enter the cellar. We are back down underground cellar, of course, and we will discover there is a small for the vinification area, but the most important is really underground, about 10 meters. You will see very, besides historic, but fascinating, and we will discover many things. As you can see, it is untouched, really natural. It's quite a labyrinth. Size is not that small, like a previous one we saw before. He's bigger than me, Geza, so he needs some space. And he has a lot of casks, a lot of bottles sitting there for ages. You will see later on how he releases very late. So besides his style, traditional, but he is really an artist. Look here. He's writing every single detail on the cask. So this is 22 vintage, full mint, blah, blah, blah. I cannot understand well. So we are trying some samples, and he's really interpreting every vintage, making different wines according to what he's feeling of a better result, keeping longer in the cask or then long bottle refine. There is no wine released before few years. Even the basic is at least couple. Look here, this is 22, the one from the cask, is still fermenting after 2 years. I've never seen something like that. He is really just letting nature do its stuff.
Okay, so the vintage 16 was our second year at the vineyards when we are making organic farming.
2015 az egy nagyon könnyű év volt, az első évünk.
So the first vintage, the 15, was super easy vintage at the vineyards.
2016 viszont már nem volt könnyű, ez egy nehéz év volt.
And the following vintage was a really hard vintage.
So they started organic in 2015 and everything went smooth, while 2016 was a very complicated vintage. They did only one harvest. He didn't know how to handle and what to produce actually. So still reconnecting to the point that he is really interpreting every year. Remember, the harvest in Tokaj is very, very extended. From the sparklings, okay, not in their case, but for other wineries, then to the dry whites, and then late harvest, and then the extreme sweet wine. So everything more complicated than most of the other regions. So sitting outside after the cellar, the kid, the dog, is a Lenkey, his partner Borba, very nice family, and we are getting started with a serious taste.
So now we started to taste something, and we need to talk a bit about. So they are experimenting always, and here is natural wines, where we can talk about a lot. We are already discussing about the characteristics of natural wines. Anyway, they do everything organic already since 2015, as she said before, in the cellar, and they do all natural process in the fermentation, no selected yeast. So that is already natural, but these wines are something new, pushing a bit further the boundaries. So now he will tell something about it.
Annyi a különbség, hogy ezek a naturborok, amiket most töltöttem Krisztiánnak, ezek tehát ugyanúgy ökológiai növényvédelem mellett készülnek. A különbség mindössze annyi, hogy nem kaptak ként, és nincsenek derítve, nincsenek szűrve.
So he said that the difference of these natural wines compared to his organic farming and traditional style is very tiny because they already follow a lot of things. It's mostly in unfiltered wine, so you can have some sediment. That's why these kind of bottles they need to keep vertical in the fridge to avoid of course, that the deposit goes to the glass. So in that way, it's staying at the bottom of the bottle. And this wine in particular is made from almost forgotten aromatic grapes. So something interesting also to preserve the traditions of the area. And as you can see, it is clear, which for natural wines is not a guarantee because the unfiltered, etc. So they work well because the result is quite good and the sediment is really on the bottom of the bottle only.
Now we're trying the most extreme in the same way of the natural wines. This is orange, full mint, 100%. 14 days of skin contact, so still a decent orange, not like in Friuli or Slovenia. It's quite nice actually. A good experiment because they are trying these things. I quite appreciate because it's not oxidized, fresh, lively. Still, my main point is that it's not easy to understand the grape, but quite interesting.
We progress and we start with the top wines, the regular ones, not the natural. So this is Uradia. So it's the crude where we are, as I showed you before, the hill above the winery. Is a blend of Furmit and Harshevelu that he made, I think, only this time in that way. So they were harvested together, the two grapes, and then vinified, long aging in cask for about 2 years and a half, and then bottled, refined, and is released just a bit, and is already considered by the sommelier around Hungary as probably the best wine of the Lenkey winery at the moment. At the first instant, I was not impressed, but now after keep it in the glass and tasting, retasting, and letting it breathe, is changing incredibly. So it's really a rich, complex, but also elegant wine at the same time. Still young, even if he's already aged. This is Lenkey style. His Furmin, his Tokaj wines are expression of the terroir, and they need time. The longer they age, the better they are. And interesting about this one, I find after tasting some touch of smokiness beside the herbal and all the other fruity characters and mineral.
Hát a füstösség meg, de bazolt nem, mert somlón van, Tokajgyan kevésbé. A füstöshegy az viszont abszolút, tehát ebbe én amit éreztem, az én szeretem a füstösséget, mert ilyen beleképzelő típus vagyok, és látom magam 5 millió évvel ezelőtt füstölgő vulkánokat.
I asked him about this smokiness, which is not typical of Tokaj, because the rocky volcanic soils are different. Usually basalt, that darker rock, which is in Shomlo, a small volcano near Balaton in Hungary, or on Etna, those usually give smokiness, is traditional. Here I didn't find before. He says that he doesn't smell it much, he's more on the herbal, the minerality, the complexity in general. But he's admitting that this vineyard is a bit different from the others. Besides the fact that the rocks are different, there is also quartzite and others besides the classic rhyolite and andesite. Uh, the main point is that the clay on surface is just a tiny 10 centimeters, giving then the plants the necessity to dig inside the rocks for the water, for the nutrients. So they are struggling much more. This is much more, if you think and if you watch before, comparable to the Croatian soils. But of course, there is limestone, but that is a bit the concept. So more struggle for the plant to survive, therefore extracting much more from the rocks. So indeed, change the characteristics of the wine. Interesting because Uragia is not the most famous crew, but these characters and the result of this wine tells me that the classification may not be to take too seriously. Is another classification like those in Bordeaux, something I wanted to discuss about, but with him, of course, it was too difficult to go in detail. But the point is, made 150, 200 years ago, there was not the technology for the studies, etc. It is not an absolute truth. So for me, Uragia can be the most surprising vineyard, even less warm because it's more in the morning time exposed to the sun. Now that it's getting warmer, so maybe the most surprising vineyard of all, even if it's not the most famous at all, compared to St. Tamas, Becek, and others. So that is an interesting point. And this wine is really amazing, amazing for the complexity and elegance and longevity and everything. Indeed. Next in the lineup is Furmint, in this case one grape from two vineyards, Holdvolge and Becek. So they selected, even in this case, his artistic approach to put together from two different vineyards to get a better result. 2017 vintage was aged also this one quite a lot, similar to the Uragia, the previous one, yeah, but is released a bit longer on the market already. Is more, is richer, complex from the fruit to the herbs to the mineral, then a touch of spices from the oak. Maybe I didn't say before, all spontaneous fermentation, no additional anything, just the sulfur that is necessary. So the wines are really genuine. So this one is quite different. The other has the complexity and the richness, but more elegance. This is more on the richness. It's really, in a way, we can say a classic for mint as it should be. Well aged and with a huge aging potential ahead still. And even worth price because this is well cheaper than Uragia, which is the top wine, the flagship of the winery. So, indeed, another marvelous uh, wine. Next, we try 3 2006. 10 years after is the name, then is the grape and crew. The first is Hotvolk Furmin, then Kishhead Furmin, and then Bombol Furmin. So three Furmins from the same, from different vineyards. 2006 was a complicated harvest. They harvested in November the dry wines, and they released them after 10 years, but mostly bottle refinement, only 1 year scarce of cask. They are still selling a bit of bottles left. So even this, you see something incredible. 10 years of aging for white wines. And then now almost 20 years old is really something incredible, incredible. Still amazing wines. 18 years old. Thanks to this wonderful acidity.
Here it's getting late.
Yeah.
This is a crazy afternoon in the dark now. Just, guys, besides the cellar, look at how many wines we tried here. It's about 10. And he just opened to finish a Su 2003 6 Putoños. Just Furmin, 100%.
Yes.
Nincs Asciuvello.
Azt hiszem, de van.
Fantastic experience. Today really more than ever connection. We are all relaxed. Geza,
It's been an incredible visit, guys, as you may have understood. Like never before, even with my fellow Italians. Really a deep connection at this point between us. This same vision, so impressive. After this trip, I decided the name of the channel. I don't have to add anything else. And I will talk about them more, and I will look forward to come back next year for another visit. I hope you enjoy, guys. I try to transmit you the emotions. Like, subscribe, comment. Merry Christmas, and see you in the new year.